Welcome to another episode of Rigby's Campfire Podcast. We are sat today with Dan from our finishing team, one of our gunmakers at John Rigby & Co. in a very, very, very special place. So why don't we start with you telling us, Dan, where we are right now?
So currently we are in Nelson's cabin on Victory and Portsmouth. And yeah, it's nice to be here.
It's I was just talking about before when we turned the camera on that I remember coming down here as a 10-year-old boy and what what this ship meant to me as a Brit and as a kid, and how special it was and how I was just utterly blown away by the sort of the magic and sacredness, quite frankly, of the ship. But it's taken on a different quality now. We've had this 250th event here. It feels quite familiar, I think, is the term that I would use. I don't know, how does it feel for you after the craziness of a few weeks ago?
But it's nice because obviously now the dust has settled. It's really calm on those evenings where the team was running around tools and benches and, the works of art, and just all the people hustling and bustling through both sets of doors, the team here setting up the tables, and yeah, it's nice to just see it in a calm, no tourists, no members of staff, and it's just like, no, it's a nice space.
It's sort of space that it really comes alive with people in it.
Yes, definitely.
And we can hear now in the background sort of hammer and chisels and bangs and scrapes and whatever from the team restoring Victory. It's undergoing a 10-year restoration project. But being here on those nights and filling it with people, filling it with I suppose the essence of Rigby's, the celebration of our 250th, and how it just sort of came alive, and the vibe that it gave off was amazing.
It's like it brought it back to life. You think when this ship was sailing, it would have been busy, it would have been chaotic, obviously methodically, but with us on it as well, it kind of brought that back to life as it would have been,
Absolutely.
It was heyday essentially.
So we've celebrated our 250th year at this amazing place, and a lot of people will have seen, I'm sure, on social media and other places, the big night on Friday. But there were 3 previous nights, so that's what I really wanted to start talking about with you first. Those were 3. I don't like the term VIP because all of our customers are VIPs. Everyone's special who buys from us at Rigby's. But those customers who have been with us since the beginning, who've bought a lot of best guns from us, hosting them here for 3 nights. I think it's 22 people a night with the gun making team, in the day room there of the cabin. And we just talked before about how the whole place sort of came alive. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that event or those 3 events means to you as a team of gunmakers, but also more importantly, the massive amount of effort that went into it by you guys, because of course there was this beautiful sort of polished theatrical spectacle of the dinner, but the amount of effort that went into that was huge.
So it was nice because when we had the lead up to the event, we were working away in the workshop. And again, it's been my first year here. So bringing everything together for those nights and the Friday of the 250th, it was nice to see what the team had accomplished together from the different aspects of gun making, plus the admin sides and the logistics side of it. So we got to see everything kind of showcased in the way it should have been right at the end. And it was, like you say, cherry on top of the cake sort of thing. But behind the scenes, there was the trips to the armory, there was moving of tools, moving of people, moving of equipment, and then obviously having to dress the table essentially as well. So we had all these different elements going on, and it was, between the workshop and obviously yourselves and management, it was, who's taking responsibility for this and who's taking responsibility for that, and just kind of getting on with the task at hand. There was no crossed wires, there was no real, it just kind of happened like, it was very fluid. It just kind of, we went with it and it worked, which was nice. And yeah, it was a massive undertaking. We had to move all the rifles.
How many rifles and guns were there?
Off the top of my head, I do not know. We had, I think there must have been 50 in total, like 50 plus. We had the cannons from the showroom. We had a range from the big game, London Best. And again, dressing those, checking them in, checking them out, liaising with the services here, and obviously the Met with their armories. and then going through that and back and forth, and then making sure that we were on schedule and on time. And
yeah, Monty had it sort of like a military operation.
Yes, down to the minute.
You know, his planning, which was, you know, without that, it wouldn't have come together. But how many of you guys would you say were involved in all that? Because you sort of started mid-afternoon each day, and I think you probably didn't finish until sort of 1 in the morning.
Yeah, so initially on the first 3 nights, there was 3 of us in the van doing essentially the armory runs. And then once we were on site, the rest of the workshop met us here. And then that's when we kind of all came together. We had people setting up the stands, setting up the benches, the armory team bringing up the firearms and obviously laying those out. I think it was maybe 8 or 9 people in the first 3 nights. And then it was nice on the Friday because we had the rest of the workshop come together as well. So it was a bit more delegation. You know, it was a lighter load essentially over the Friday, which was nice. We were finishing maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, no, it was busy. It was really busy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing amount of effort. You know, sort of 3 years of work to you know, from concept idea. And we've talked about this so many times on the podcast. You know, Simon and I in a hotel room in Las Vegas, I think it was, and Simon says, "What about this crazy idea?" And so for it to go from that to, you know, being manifested into existence by you guys, I was so proud of all of you and how you properly stepped up. It was huge pressure. I mean, that first night when I came in here.
Oh, it was absolute chaos.
Absolute chaos. So I want to say the museum here, the last sort of visitors was about 4:30.
Yes.
And I think the VIP guests entered the cabin here at, I want to say 6:30.
Yeah, around that. Yeah.
We had about 2 hours to break everything down from it being a museum, and then setting up 6 workbenches, getting 50 guns in here, the cannons, this table which was extended out. We opened those doors there. The table with the Union Jack, that piece of wood from Victory on there. That's something else I want to talk to you about in just a moment. But you know, just turning this into what was essentially a movie set.
Yeah.
That's how I describe it. It was like a movie set. And the way you guys all did that, and I think that speaks volumes as to why Rigby's has been such a success as it has been in the last 12 years. I said it on the speech on the top deck here on the last night. 12 years ago, this company was in the UK, was an idea in my head and a box of papers in my car. And to then see it as this like living, breathing thing. All of you guys, everyone knew what they were doing, and it was carnage, it was chaos, but it was organized chaos. And the way you guys brought it together, and I didn't have to at any point second guess or question that it wasn't going to be done. That I knew when we walked through that door with 20 people from some of the most important people in the hunting, shooting, gun world, walk in here, it was immaculate, and everyone was there all dressed up, and everything looked so good, and that was entirely down to you and all of the guys. So thank you.
No, it was a really good experience to be a part of. Like I say, I'm relatively new to the firm. Working with John and Olivier and the rest of the guys, again, everyone knew where they needed to be and how they, and what needed to be done. And people were just checking in with each other, can I have, a hand lift in this, or can you grab that? Can you double check that this doesn't get lost? And I think the team handled it very well and very professionally, especially because we're in someone else's, we're in someone else's house, so we have to be respectful of the space around us as well.
And given what that space is, I mean, this. It was Captain Jack Aubrey, Master and Commander. This ship is England. It is like the embodiment of this country, and it is sacred. And it's made of wood as well, so it's like its own living, breathing thing. It deserves the utmost respect. And, the guys off camera here was so unbelievably generous with allowing us to come in and basically take over for 4 nights. So it was amazing.
There was a lot of trust involved there.
There was a lot of trust. There's like so many artifacts in this room. I mean, the room itself is an artifact, and you go and spill wine on it or bash it with a
moving workbenches through up the stairs because they're really narrow, and it's like, we don't want to take, you don't want to scratch anything or chip anything or just any damage whatsoever, but
I think that leads us really nicely into what was in the middle of the table in the night. So on the night, as you know, this table was extended out. We had a plank of wood from HMS Victory with 2 guns like this on there, covered with a piece of Rigby tweed. And there was this sort of big theatrical reveal with a sword, which we'll talk about maybe later or another time. But tell us about the 2 guns under that piece of tweed.
So we had 2 Victory Edition rifles, and what makes these special is we have a bit of the actual ship itself inlaid in essentially the fore-end part of the stock itself. So a nice little V in nice little cross section with the checkering around it, and it's original oak from the ship, and you have dark on light, so it really pops, really stands out.
So yeah, it was cut in the same font as the V for Victory on the back of the ship here. So there's all these little bits, and to get that piece of wood was no easy task, and it's only because of the restoration project that's happening on the ship now that we're able to get this. These are parts of the original oldest part of the ship. It's been restored several times over the generations, but to get a piece of that oak, and then to have frankly the honour to be able to use that and incorporate it into our gun making, and the response around the table was just mind blowing. We had we started off when people came down, they had a tour of the ship. We were given unparalleled access to the restoration of the ship, which was amazing. Getting PPE on and going up the scaffold and looking. So by the time we revealed the guns and people could see, they really understood and felt, I think, how important and how, again, that word, how sacred that piece of wood was. And for us to have the great privilege of using that is very special.
Well, it's historical. The clientele, the customers that purchase these items that we make now have a bit of English heritage with it. They own that. It's a part of the gun. It's the essence, it's the body, it's the quality, and it's all there. And it comes together really nicely with this, art piece essentially.
Absolutely.
Which is, again, part of history. How many times does the ship open up for events like that?
Absolutely. And you, Dan, were one of the unsung heroes in that you were there with all the setup and the tearing down. And again, I can't thank you enough for being so selfless with all of that, and Olivier and John Bolton. But you guys were a short way away from here whilst the dinner was going on. But you had mentioned earlier about all the cannon fire that you guys were hearing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, so we could hear it from the hotel at points. So we were listening, myself, I was listening intently. I was just like, there's another one. Oh, they must be doing really well. And we were quite excited. It's like, oh, how many times did it go off? And how much noise did you create? And did you get in trouble? And I think at one point they actually were like, so calm down.
It's a backstory for everyone listening at home. So I sat here and I stood up. And again, I think at some point we should we've recorded the speech. Maybe we can get it on this podcast or another podcast. But I stood up and I gave a speech about the Victory editions. And I say in there that we embody the spirit of boyish fun in Rigby's. It's a cool company, and it's a company that only does awesome as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I said, after you've signed the historic parchment, to say that you want to order one of these Victory editions. And these Victory editions were only available to the people at those 3 dinners. No one else in the world would have the opportunity. Only those people who'd been so supportive of the company since our relaunch. But after they'd signed the parchment, I turned to the sideboard here and I said, we ask you to make your way to this window. And there's a little window there which would have been opened up and used in the Battle of Trafalgar and other battles with the cannon out, to fire. To approach the window, sword in hand, pick up this brass megaphone, which was just there, and signal to Lieutenant Colonel Simon West your order, and he'll salute you. So, and I said, as demonstrated, and shout fire out the window. I had the great privilege of doing that 3 times, on one on each of the nights, and having Simon West just down here and touching off this period Victorian cannon was extraordinary. This whole room shook. All the china and the glasses were chinking. And as you mentioned before there, Dan, it went off a lot. There were a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think at the last count there was like more than 60 orders from those customers, which is extraordinary. And we fired it so much on the first night, and it went on so late that someone at Easterley, which is miles from here, had complained, and the police had come down and asked us to stop firing the cannon. So we had to bring it forward the second and the third nights to make sure that we stopped firing it by 9:30. But seeing customers from all around the world, like schoolboys, leaning out of that window, shouting "fire" with this megaphone was amazing.
It was like we were downstairs in the captain's mess. We come in to essentially pack down, and the cannon's still going off. And you hear the fire, and then it goes off, and it still makes you jump. It's so loud, and just the fun that comes through the room. So you just imagine, whilst this thing was, in active duty, how loud it must have been. Yeah. But yeah, that boyish fun element definitely comes through, especially with the team at Rigby. Because again, there's a lot of young lads there as well, and yeah, the enthusiasm's great, and that kind of comes across when we, like you say, when we do these boyish fun moments, and it's definitely worth being.
Well, I think what we do at Rigby's and in the gun trade generally, it's very serious.
Yes.
We're making not just very expensive, very beautiful guns, and there's a big commercial element there with the relationship with the customer, but they're also firearms. There's a lot of licensing, safety, all of those things involved. That aside, I do think today, generally, as a society, we take things way too seriously. And I think it was Anthony Hopkins who said, none of us are getting out of here alive.
Yes.
And I love that. And it's so true. And you can absolutely be serious, but you should also remember that we're here to have fun. And I think we had customers from all around the world, business leaders, countries leaders, sitting around this table. And Rigby is this fantastic leveler in that people can come to this space, they can come to Rigby's and just talk about hunting, talk about guns, be themselves, feel in a safe environment to do that. And for us to just treat them as a fellow person who loves guns and hunting.
Everyone's on the same sort of level,
exactly.
Which is really nice.
Exactly, and that definitely came through the firing that cannon and this whole experience. And that's, under my leadership at Rigby's, and I know the team feel very passionate about that as well. It's this sort of culture that's quite naturally and organically sort of, bubbled up, and very much what we are.
Yeah, again, whilst we're in the workshop, we get customers come through, and these are people like myself would never cross paths with if we were in some sort of different industry. And when they come through and they're looking at the work and we're talking about hunting and shooting and the lifestyle and the culture, even like myself, it's more about the mechanics for me and the making and the craft. But it's nice to have someone like, the customers come and be passionate about what it is I'm doing. And then, they're back and forth, especially with, again, these individuals that run countries, run companies, they're high up in their fields. So it's nice to kind of meet the customers as well and have that kind of rapport. And
the customers say this to us. The people they want to meet at the company, it's not me, the CEO or the salespeople. They want to come and see you guys. You're like the coolest people on the planet. They want to come and spend time with you. They're fascinated in the craft, the patience you all have for standing there filing and shaping and the magic, quite frankly, that you bring to the Rigby gun making. It's captivating.
Thank you. No, it's great. No, I've really enjoyed the last year and a bit. No, it's definitely been a nice place to work, and definitely the guys are absolutely fantastic. And especially it's a small space, we are on top of each other. But even then, like, the guys communicate really well, and like yourself, you're always around, so we always have someone to talk to if there's an issue, or even just general day-to-day chit-chat. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm hoping throughout this episode, they might be able to put a few photos in from that night, and including the restoration of the ship, because I think we've got some nice pictures of that. But as I mentioned before, that piece of wood, that you guys have so lovingly and carefully and respectfully put into the fore end of those Victory editions, a portion of the proceeds from all of those sales go back to the ship.
Yes.
And I think we need to do the final calculation, but I think it's like £250,000.
Yeah, no, it's a big amount, especially for restoration projects where sometimes funding isn't as widely available. So that extra bit just helps keep these things alive, for future generations like yourself, 10-year-old boy to see, like my kids or my kids' kids can, come and see these places and enjoy them.
Absolutely, and the whole reason we had Victory and Rigby aligned on this 250th is because exactly what you've just said there about Victory, the same applies to companies like Rigby. Rigby is a living, breathing museum. It's an artifact, it's a piece of British legacy, and if it's not for the hard work and dedication of you guys at the bench, you guys making events like the 250th happen, it won't be there for future generations to come and walk around and see and touch and hopefully buy from. So I think that's probably a really nice point to wrap up. Dan, once more, thank you so very much for all that you did at the event. You were selfless, along with JB, John Bolton, and Olivier. Thank you so very much, and thanks to all the other guys who were involved in that. So.
No, thank you for having me. No, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have two people here this evening, Mr. and Mrs. Welker, who remember very well the Corbett rifle reveal that we did at SCI in 2016, which I think, if I may say so, was a very exceptional and exciting project that the Rigby craftsmen put together. And in that spirit, I have something to read to you. We have prepared another surprise, and you will need your swords. We have been secretly working on a project for 3 years, and I cannot easily express how much effort this has taken from the entire Rigby team. As many of you here have a pathological addiction to buying guns, and God bless you,
It's called healthy.
we had to, it's two-way, we had to come up with something that would suit this historic milestone like nothing we've done before. We've previously built some incredible guns with you, and as such, you have set the bar at a temptingly high level, which I'm afraid has gotten the better of us. My sword, please.
Yes, Admiral.
I'm inspired by a speech made by Captain Jack Aubrey in the movie Master and Commander. Though some of you may be from the far side of the world, for tonight, this ship is our home. This ship is Rigby. So it's every hand to his sword, quicks the word, and sharps the action. After all, surprise is on our side.
Wow. Well, is this dessert? Do we get the credit?
It's a cake.
That's right, there you go.
Really well done.
We proudly present Rigby's Victory Edition, the most historically significant model we have ever produced. This not only commemorates 250 years, but unites two iconic national treasures together forever. The oak V for Victory you see inlaid by hand into the forend once formed part of this historic vessel. It has absorbed the footfalls of Admiral Lord Nelson, weathered fierce Atlantic gales, and trembled with the thunder of cannon fire that changed the course of nations. This priceless oak, which once formed part of this very ship, originally grew in purpose-planted forests by Queen Elizabeth I 500 years ago. It now finds a new purpose, placed at the heart of these truly special rifles. These rifles are the very embodiment of Britishness, not simply in form and function, but in their very soul. Tonight, we have had the great privilege of observing the Rigby Master Gunmakers uniquely moved to Nelson's cabin for this special evening. In front of our very eyes, they have been working on parts that will be used on the Victory Edition. What we are offering you this evening is an exclusive invitation to order. Whether you seek a single rifle as a souvenir, or a pair, or treasured heirlooms for your nearest and dearest, or perhaps one for each of your children. The choice is entirely yours. The opportunity to acquire the Victory Edition is reserved solely to you. You alone are the gatekeepers to these extraordinary rifles that no one else will ever have the chance to buy. Although there is no obligation to buy one or more, the Victory Edition is available in any of our best models, in any caliber, made to your exact specifications. Of course, I would personally recommend buying all 4 of Rigby's proprietary calibers, known forevermore as a fleet of Rigbys. For those of you concerned how much of your children's inheritance must be sacrificed to secure one of these heirlooms, Rigby will be donating 5% of each rifle to the restoration project of HMS Victory to help keep her for generations to come. A fitting way, in true Rigby fashion, to give back. Now, those ready to embody the same courage as Admiral Lord Nelson on the eve of the Battle of Trafalgar, we invite you to boldly step forward and make your mark on this special parchment. you will see that the people here last night have set the bar very high for you in terms of their courage. This special parchment will sit immediately adjacent to Nelson's personal writing desk, where great orders were written for battle. Hand painted onto this parchment, it states, "This document is signed and witnessed by the fellows of this great cabin aboard HMS Victory. By the signing of this document, I hereby attest to the ordering of a Rigby Victory Edition rifle, crafted to celebrate the 250th year of the foundation of John Rigby & Co. The original parchment will be framed and placed as the centrepiece in our Rigby Museum next to Corbett's rifle in our new London showroom. You will also receive a copy to commemorate this very special occasion and to show off to all your friends. Also included with each order is a beautifully bound book bursting with stunning photography chronicling the production and entire gun-making process of these special guns. These rifles will never be available to the general public. They are offered exclusively during these 3 VIP evenings, and only to you, our most esteemed friends with whom we've had the great privilege of sharing this experience. Now, as always at Rigby's, we enjoy the spirit of boyish fun. So, should you scribe an order on the historic parchment, we ask you to make your way to this window. Sword in hand, pick up this brass megaphone and announce to Lieutenant Colonel Simon West your order, as demonstrated. Fire! To own one or more is to possess not merely a gun of exceptional quality, but a tangible piece of HMS Victory herself, a direct connection to Nelson, to the Battle of Trafalgar, and to the craftsmen and women of Rigby who have maintained our tradition for 250 years. Tonight, Rigby invites you to claim your place in our shared legacy. History, heritage, and exceptional gunmaking await your consideration. To finish, I'm inspired once more by Captain Jack Aubrey. For England, for Rigby, and for the prize. Thank you.
Well done.